Hey everyone, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Justin. Happy Halloween, happy Movember. I will be shaving soon and sporting a mustache in support of men's health. But today, wanted to talk about the culture at Toronto Maple Leafs games in Toronto at Scotiabank Arena, because I was fortunate enough to have gone to the game last night in the arena against the Los Angeles Kings. Lackluster, very pathetic effort against the Kings, 4-1 loss. But ignoring what actually happened in the game, it's been a conversation this year about how quiet Scotiabank Arena is. And that's nothing new. I mean, I've been going to games for a long time. I feel fortunate enough to have experienced a lot of Leafs games in my life. And again, it's nothing new. We see that Scotiabank Arena is mostly, as we know, a corporate crowd. It's filled with lower bowl seats that are people just there for business that likely have a suite on the ground level and aren't even in their seats for most of the game. They show up late to the game, and the entire energy in the arena has always been pathetic. I say always, but actually, when I was a kid, I remember, late 90s, early 2000s, going to Leafs games and it just being electric. Now, maybe that was just me being a kid and early memories of being in that arena. Like everything just, it seems so grand. It's possible that my perception was different, but I truly think that the environment was way different. I remember always being around that drunk fan, just getting everybody hyped up. I remember the energy was there. I remember it was loud, but I haven't seen it that way in a long time, excluding playoffs. Now, I will say during the playoffs, it has been very exciting. I mean, I was at game one last year in Toronto against Tampa Bay, round one. And to start the game, before the game, it was bumping. The energy was there. The crowd was there. The arena was packed and people were ready to go. And then we ended up losing 7-3. So it got quiet and people left in a hurry. But that's, again, more the results of the actual game than it is just the energy of the crowd. The Leafs fans will give you energy and enthusiasm if you give them a reason to do so, but they don't do it proactively. And I think that is a little bit of a concern because, yes, yesterday's game, it was a 4-1 game. It was a sloppy game. The Leafs looked terrible. They looked sluggish. But even before the game had even started, my girlfriend and I were talking about all the empty seats in the lower bowl. The upper bowl seemed to be, for the most part, full, but we were standing for the anthem, and you could see not just seats scattered, you could see entire rows of seats empty. I don't know if that's a lack of selling them, if it's people just not showing up to the game together, if it's corporate crowds that are underground, if it's, seats that are blocked off and eventually not given out. I don't know what the case is, but it's quite frankly pathetic. And they were doing the player intros. And I remember even just a few years ago, you would hear Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews being announced and there would be a pop and there was nothing. There was a little bit of energy at the anthem, a little bit of energy after the anthem. I was sitting in the upper bowls, so the upper bowl is generally where you get most of the fans, but something's got to be done about this. Again, it's more of a conversation this year than usual. Biz and Wit on Spit and Chicklets had a full segment on it after the Leafs home opener where, again, it's the first game of the season in Toronto. Fans should be excited after a long hiatus, after the Leafs actually won a series last year, and there were crickets. And it's embarrassing. And someone actually mentioned it on a different podcast that I was listening to. How many sports teams in other sports where it's the mecca of the sport, one of the biggest fan bases of that team, and that team is one of the quietest buildings or stadiums or arenas in the league. It's not common. Usually when you have such a big fan base and are selling out in and out, you get energy. You get crowds that are supporting a team, and the Leafs, for some reason, have the biggest fan base in the entire NHL, but fail to have any energy whatsoever in that building. And you can tell that, MLSE's even acknowledging this to an extent, because I've never seen it where before the game even started, they were calling for fans to get on their feet. They were calling for people to start cheering before the Leafs even came out onto the ice, because they wanted to start building that early on in the night before the game had started so that the energy could stay throughout the game. And it didn't work because, again, it's a corporate crowd at MLSE. I don't know how you fix this. I don't think there's really a solution. Most of the real fans that want to cheer, that want to go and support their team, just can't afford tickets because, 85% of the arena is probably season seats. And of season seat holders, probably 10% of them are actual Leafs fans buying season seats because they want to watch their team. Whereas most of it, again, is a corporate crowd, people going for business meetings. And even if they are Leafs fans, they probably don't feel like it's appropriate to be celebrating wearing a jersey when they're with other people from either their company or prospective clients or whatever the case may be. And it makes for a terrible atmosphere in Toronto. And a small part of me believes that even in a sloppy game that the Leafs were literally being outplayed the entire game, had no energy, that if the crowd was bumping, if the crowd brought them something to play for, that they could possibly turn that game around and start playing with a little bit more effort in the second half of the game, kind of get their legs found late in the game and make a push, because that does happen when fans get behind you. But there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. The only time I really heard energy throughout the game from the crowd was after John Tavares scored, making it 3-1. It gives us a glimpse of hope. And then the next shift is in the offensive zone. There was a big "Go Leafs Go" chant. And then just a few minutes later, we give up another goal to make it 4-1. And after that, people were leaving the game with 8 minutes to go in the game. That to me is unheard of. Like, I, as big of a fan as I am, I just couldn't even imagine leaving a Leafs game early, let alone with 8 minutes left. I know that they're going to lose. It's a slim chance of them coming back, but it is possible they could come back. But even still, like, how much are these tickets? How much is this opportunity to even be in the building to watch these guys? I couldn't believe it. I found it ridiculous. And it brings up a little bit of an interesting conversation, because last year in April, I went on a golf trip with some buddies in Myrtle Beach, and we drove down there, and on the drive back, we stopped in North Carolina and went to a Leafs game in Carolina, and that building was bumping. That building was off the charts. I was really, really impressed with not only how many people were there, but how much energy and enthusiasm there was in the game. And we were talking about it, me and my buddies, after the game, about how crazy of an atmosphere it was. And the one distinction I did want to make to my friends was that, in Toronto, you got a lot of Leafs fans, but a lot of people that understand hockey, people that are there to watch intently, to see what happens on the ice, to legitimately care about what this team is doing and how they're performing. Whereas, and this is no disrespect to Carolina fans, because I was very impressed with how many people that are legitimate Carolina fans I know they are around. But for the most part, I did feel like, in a region like Carolina or some other areas that teams have in the NHL, people go just because it's an opportunity to get a night out, to go out with buddies, to go out drinking and have some fun and party a little bit. And that brings a much more, enthusiastic environment, a much more party environment, but not necessarily bigger hockey fans. And I think that could get skewed a little bit. But, I wish that with how much we care as Leafs Nation, that we could translate that just a little bit more into bringing something to Scotiabank Arena to support this team, because quite frankly, it is embarrassing in my opinion. If I sometimes think about, if I were in the NHL, what team do I want to play for? Without a doubt, it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. But when I picture myself, even as a 28-year-old, as embarrassing as this is, but if I were to picture myself playing in Scotiabank Arena in front of Leafs Nation, I picture it with everybody going crazy and losing their minds. And the reality is that's never been the case outside of the playoffs, because for whatever reason, we're waiting for the team to prove it, to do something, or if it's just the corporate crowd, I don't know. But it's not the reality where you've got people on their feet all game. And that's sad to think about it. I really wish it was the case. So I'm open to ideas here. Not that we can do anything, but what is the reason? What is the issue? And how can you change the culture? It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time. But I really think MLSE needs to sit down and look at this and try to do literally anything to try to get some energy in that building, because right now it just isn't working the way it is. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think that they can do? What are some things that us as Leafs Nation, we can do to kind of change the culture and stop being such an embarrassment in the NHL that even fans from other fan bases are calling us out for it at this point? So I look forward to hearing your opinion in the comments down below. Click like, click subscribe, really close to 450 or 500 subscribers, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.